Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Pull Up Tray Podcast. A bad one. This one we got. I know. I saw a comment. I think it was the last podcast we did that said, Trey and Samson. This feels like the most pessimistic they've been, and we'll get into why. But we're talking after the Raptors scored 2 points to close out the game in 5 minutes against the Knicks. The Knicks launched off on a rocket ship. The Raptors basically did nothing. I mean, they did stuff, just none of it
Yeah.
ended up being positive, which for all intents and purposes means you did nothing in this beautiful sport that we love. Trey, how are you doing?
Outside of the game, wonderful. I feel like the first quarter they gave us something. I was telling you in the morning, like I feel like this is the one. I feel it in my bones. They have to win one of these games. And in the first quarter, we're like, this is the best the offense has looked in weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
then the fourth quarter reminds you of all the problems that they have as a team. It just is the good, bad, and the ugly of the season.
Are your spirits high as we enter spring?
Very high. Thank you for asking. We need to check up on each other more. I'm glad we're getting in this flow. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I also forgot to say that this episode is a presentation of TuneBet Online Sports Book and Casino. Have you ever had somebody try and have like a heart to heart with you and you cut it off for a gambling sponsorship? Has that ever happened in your life? Oh man, boy, that is something else. All right, everybody. We're here to talk basketball. I'm doing okay. I'm excited, you and Oleg both have birthdays this month. That's kind of
Oh,
fun. Oleg's is tomorrow. Yours is between the
oh.
12th and the 18th, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
that is accurate. Yes.
Okay, somewhere in there. 17th?
Yes. Wow.
Oh, let's go. Okay, so anyway, for listeners who aren't here for the Samson and Trey show, who are here for basketball, yeah. So the Raptors, they played the Knicks. They played well, as you said. The offense was humming in that first quarter. Here's the problem, though. As I mentioned, 2 points in clutch time. I was sitting there up in media row. It was 93-95. There's like 5 minutes and 26 seconds left. Scotty and BI, they check in. The Raptors survived the minutes without either of them. RJ went on a little sprint, a little run for himself. And I said, you know what? Maybe they might do it. And I thought back to the quote that Darko gave me at the before the game started. I asked him about having such a terrible record against all the best teams. I said, "How do you feel about that?" He said, "I feel awesome about it. I think that's a great opportunity for us. I think that we as an organization have made significant strides this season, and for us, the next big step is that playing high level against the best teams in the league." Okay, so he mentions that there's a learning opportunity, all this kind of stuff. How do you feel? What did you learn from the end of that game?
Um, I think this is one of the first times in this season where I have questions about their approach. I think typically I've agreed a lot of how Darko's philosophy in basketball and how he approaches the game. I think the Raptors like do more of the modern stuff as opposed to previous coaches that they had. But we're in 60 plus games now of seeing running late time offense through Brandon Ingram and through Brandon Ingram isolations has not been effective offense. And they were at a point in time within the game where like it looked like second side RJ stuff was effective. Him and Jakob also have been able to work fairly well together within the game. And there wasn't any sort of credence of trying anything else. And then you ran into a situation where you're trading Brandon Ingram jumpers for Jalen Brunson isolations. And like against the best teams in the league, we're not as the Raptors, you're just not gonna win that trade-off. So it's odd because this is the first stretch since the beginning of the season where they have all their guys aside from CMB. I think it's at some point you need to try something else.
So I think the first possession, the one that Scotty missed the corner triple on, that was I believe that was RJ pick and roll to his
Yeah.
right or a pitch play to his right. But I do agree with you that the usage tilts so far in the direction of Brandon. But on top of that too is like the usage going to Brandon was a great thing over the course of the game. And this is like you know, is it approach overall?
Yeah.
Is the approach like, does everyone actually believe that the last 5 minutes is played similarly to the other, 43? I personally don't think so.
Yeah.
There has to be a more dynamic approach. Case in point, Brandon scored 26 points in the first half. It was his third highest scoring first half ever. Well, not ever. I'm sure he scored like 70 as a kid, but like in the NBA, he was
Yeah.
scoring the hell out of the basketball. He scored 5 points in the second half. And he had, it was the turnovers they come home to roost. The
Mhm.
Knicks are doing a much better job of staying connected, and the shot making just doesn't go boom, boom, boom forever. And the Raptors, 2 points, man. I was pulling their stats up because I'm writing the piece while I'm watching this, and I see,
Yeah.
okay, well, they're ranked 25th in offensive rating. They're third last in true shooting percentage. And I look at the Knicks and I say, this is a great offense. Brunson will hit a couple jumpers, and he didn't have to do anything, man. The Knicks could have scored 0 and they would have went to
Yeah.
overtime because the Raptors only put up 2. I do and here's the Raptors bludgeoned their starters were plus 18 at some point in the third quarter, just like smashing the hell
Yeah.
out of the Knicks, and transitional lineups was where they had trouble. And then it all just falls to the wayside. Like the Raptors coming into this game were 104 offensive rating, 98 defensive rating in clutch time. Plus 6 is good, especially for how often they play in it. But it seems lately like the two things are converging in a middle, which means the defense is maybe not where it needs to be. The offense, I just I'm not super optimistic about their ability to close games. I know the news flash, they just got
Yeah.
smacked, but like I don't know, man. What do you want to see? Like what? Let's put on the coach's cap for yourself.
Yeah. I for as much as like RJ Barrett isn't the perfect player, he's the only one within the lineup that like can bend a defense and get downhill. And he's the only one that was giving the Knicks some sort of trouble. Like as they tightened their defense, the Raptors were had to take tons of jumpers. And a guy like BI, although he's very talented at that, you can't expect that to last the entire game. There needs to be a point where RJ gets the ball more as a ball handler that allows both Scotty and IQ to be effective in their version of being spacers on the court. Like ideally, you don't want your star player to be the one that's in the dunker spot or as the screener, but he's more effective rolling down the rim, being a play finisher that pulls defenses. IQ, him being the ball handler in a lot of these possessions, like I think we have what 3 seasons of this now. It just doesn't work. And him being that off ball threat and running off of screens and being a 3-point shooter is his most effective play. Um, I think there comes to a point where if you're going to run BI stuff, you need to at least utilize RJ as that like second option with second side pick and roll ball handling stuff. Let him get downhill and ideally open up things for other guys.
Okay, so the Raptors they scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, and some of this, like most of well, actually all of the work, came before clutch time because the only clutch time basket I believe was Jakob Poeltl roll to the rim from Emmanuel Quickly, a pocket pass, if I'm remembering correctly. But of the 13 points, RJ Barrett scored 9 of those on 5 shots. He also had,
Yep.
Quickly had 3 assists, but Brandon and Scotty, they combined for 0 for 4. They're both minus 14, despite Scotty playing, 8.5 minutes and Brandon playing 4.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. It just, you hit the nail on the head. The big question that the Raptors have to be able to ask themselves is you brought in Brandon Ingram, who has really done his job this year. He
Yep.
has, but you have to figure out how things look maximally. It can't just be Brandon Ingram, dragging certain parts of the offense to respectability and Scotty doing a really, really good job in the bit rolls as a guy who's rolling and stuff like that. And his
Mhm.
isolation numbers are really good this year. But a lot of those are not coming in clutch time. And he even ISO'd in clutch time and missed the shot that he took. Scotty did too, that short mid ranger. I just I don't know how they solve the problem this roster presents for like good offense in the NBA. And especially since early on in the season, it looked like they had when they played faster.
Yep.
When they have the slowest, they play the slowest in the NBA, by the way, in clutch time. They have the slowest
That
pace.
checks out.
They're like, oh, hey, we love playing fast until the game really matters. Then we want to play
No.
slow. And I get it. Defense is something, if that's half the game. But still, beyond that, man, I just figuring out how to maximize Scotty, not because you're like, oh, I love Scotty. I need to see him be the best he can be, but because you're like, this guy's on the floor. So what's it going to be? And
Yeah.
I just do wonder if there's not going to be any shooter. Because, like, if RJ shoots the ball well, then it becomes a little more feasible. If Brandon and IQ, if those three shoot the ball well, then you get somewhere with it. But that's just not been happening. Quickly was 3 for 10 tonight.
Yeah.
Even just one last thing. Before the game, we were just talking, just the media members, and somebody was like, yeah, IQ's been so hot lately. And I was like, how hot? And they looked and they're like, yeah, he's shooting 38% over his last hour. I was like, that's not even hot. That's not hot. 38%. He shoots better than that most seasons. What are we?
Yeah.
It's not hot.
It's a tough stretch just because like the cap of this team is punching you in the face over and over again. Like they've proven the big point of the season was proving that they can be a playoff team and getting the answers. I think that's already been solved. Scotty is great. He's someone worth investing in.
They'll be there.
Yeah, that is fine. I think the challenge now is I think it's fairly clear that this isn't going to be the roster that gets him to that next step or maximizes him to be the player that he needs to be. I I think he was tremendous tonight. Like, hey, he didn't score 20 points, but he showed like why he's probably going to be first team all defense. There's very few players in the NBA that can both give Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns hell on different possessions back to back. It's absurd the type of impact that he can do and drive winning. But they've put themselves in a position where they have several imperfect players that are being asked to carry tons of usage. And it's clear now that why BI gave some proof of concept, he isn't going to be the one that's going to be the engine of a team around Scotty Barnes.
Well, he could be an engine. It just might not be a fast car. you know, it's I think Scotty, and also some of this sits squarely on Scotty's shoulders because
Yeah.
like the defensive performance he gave tonight was pretty great from the outset. Like he fouled Jalen Brunson 8 seconds in the game, but he was playing denied defense on him, and he was absorbing drives, making it incredibly like the defensive job he did tonight was pretty
Incredible.
outstanding. But even though 14 points on 9 shots is not bad, you do need more. Your team only scored 95, only 95. And before he missed his last 2 shots, that means he's 5 for 7. You do at some point need to be able to put your hand on the basketball and manipulate the game and say, I'm going to have volume. A big thing here is that Brandon controls his volume. Scotty doesn't control his volume so much. Quickly doesn't control his volume so much. And RJ's just filling in. This means some games like RJ 20 points on 9 of 13 shooting. Great. Thanks. But listen, anyway. It just having Scotty and IQ out there when both of these guys are not super adept at managing their own volume and setting a floor and a healthy floor,
Yeah.
then that means that the Raptors' overall offensive rating in these games is more determined by other guys. When you're a star, and like that's the thing too, is Scotty, we can be as happy as we want about his defense, but there are questions that have to be answered offensively.
Yep.
Some of them are being answered pessimistically. Some of them are being shoved into the future, like it'll come around. But it does have to be more. And he could help answer some of these questions by not being like a guy who's punching up at third team All NBA, but given that he's a Defensive Player of the Year nominee, he's strong on offense too, and you're without a question All NBA, not just this year when everyone's injured, but every year afterwards. He can answer that call with development and with, driving his game forward. That is a huge question for these Raptors. And as much as, you can say like this team is not maximizing Scotty in some sense, I do agree. But offensively, he's not worth maximizing right now because it's like,
Yeah,
bro, you got to do more. You're shooting 14% from three over the last however many games.
yeah,
It just has it has to be more.
yeah. I think from him offensively, like having a guard that probably could get downhill and give him some of the easier shots would change a lot, obviously, for him and his usage going up. But you have to be, I think, for him to be a respectable, not a more above a respectable offensive player, hitting open shots has to be like a prerequisite of his game. You can be a guy like Julius Randle isn't a top of the line shooter, but in any given season he could shoot 35% from three and lead respectable NBA offense. His passing opens up when he hits more shots. The mid-range stuff has been a really good surprise. You want to be able to see that you can throw him the ball and score in pinches when you have him. Can you post up and utilize that size and strength to make plays, which will also open up your passing? Um, I don't think he's going to be the player like that you ask him to take the ball at the top of the key and make plays. You saw that he tried to do that against the Knicks in clutch time that leads to a turnover, and that's fine. They have opportunity, should have opportunities to have players that give him better chances to score the ball, but he has to do the easy stuff well so that they can have other players that optimize the other things that he can't do.
Yeah. It's this team is it is a unique fit. The
Yeah.
way they've been papering over limitations, I think is a significant credit to the effort the players give, and I think the big braining that the coaches do. But also, like, man, you just don't know how shooting is going to manifest at the NBA level. It Scotty, the fact that his other shooting markers suggest that this terrible, because he is on volume, one of the worst 3-point shooters in the NBA. Usually, guys like that don't have positive markers in the mid range or from the free throw
Mhm.
line, especially if they have volume from three. It's like, listen, some guys, and then like Mo Diawara tonight, cans two triples. They're both heavily contested. He's shooting like 40% on the season. And I'm looking, he's played 50 games. He's not taking a ton of threes, but I'm like, man, that guy just figured it out quick. OG
Yeah.
figured it out quick. Grady, he's not even playing anymore. He like I just the way jump shots manifest at the NBA level,
Mhm.
it's so tough because you know, you only are able to ask, like, is everybody healthy? Is everybody working? Why isn't it working on the court then? And then you sit with yourself and just say, like, this is weird. It's tough.
It's tough. They have a conundrum in the fact that the offense is obviously clearly better with Jakob. Like he it allows you to run pick and rolls. He's great running at the rim. He's humongous, so he's a great play finisher that bails out a lot of drives that get stopped at the rim. But like defensively, you can clearly see they cannot support the backcourt that they currently play with Yaka being their backline defender, like how CMB was. But also when CMB plays, the offense isn't enough, and when there's a good chance they're going to play the Knicks in the playoffs, the Knicks or the Cavs, and they're going to have to make some sort of concerted decision on what type of approach they're going to go with. And I'm really interested to see who's going to get the bulk of those minutes.
So the Raptors last year, their net rating in the clutch was like minus 16.3. This year, before it updates, they're 19 and 12 in these games, so now 19 and 13, and they were plus 3.7. They are top 10. They're sitting 10th. They used to be top three. It has been sliding down. It has been getting to a point where you have to start asking hard questions. And as you said, it gets to a point where the Raptors have been looking so directly at their lack of oomph against the best teams in the
Yeah.
NBA that I'm sure it's stressing them out. And basketball can be stressful, Trey. It really can. Let me change the background. Basketball can be stressful, but your choice of beer, it doesn't have to be. Coors Light delivers mountain cold refreshment. When the mountains turn blue, the beer is as cold and refreshing as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold certified for a smoother finish. It was Bill's night Uh, it was like the Raptors and Bills did a crossover. I had no idea about this. All of a sudden, I was standing across from Tracy McGrady. I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" He's walking over. I follow, and then they're doing an impromptu thing where they ask Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady. I found out that apparently they own part of the Bills. I had no idea prior to this, none. All this to say, because your Patriots fandom usually works its way into the Coors Light, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the Bills quickly during this course.
All I will say is we had a Bills night and the Raptors lost. So that's all. That's all I'm gonna say. It just seems like it was fitting.
I grabbed Key a shirt though, because it was like
MVP.
Raptors and Bills. Like, how often do you get? Like, I know Mitchell and Ness made a big. Mitchell and Ness would be like, every logo of every team. Are you a fan of the league? Type jacket. But how often do you
Yeah.
get your two favorite teams? I mean, come on.
Mhm.
Get a little Chelsea FC patch right there too. Special times. By the way, make sure to celebrate responsibly, everyone. And you must be of legal drinking age to imbibe and partake in Coors Light. Don't you dare if you're not of legal age. You can find Coors Light near you if you're of legal age. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Trey, what else about this Raptors team? What is worth talking about here?
That is a great question. I guess another thing that's clear in just a lot of these games is those transitional lineups. Like the Raptors' depth gets very exposed. I love Jamal, and I think it's been a great story. But you're biting your teeth, like hoping they survive those minutes because they have such a lack of creation with when they're playing guys like Jacoby, Jameson, Jamal in lineups. Even Mamu to some degree, I think, has his level of
Couldn't hang
impact
tonight.
is it's cooled off, which is fine. Like Mamu on a really good team is like your eighth guy. But for the Raptors, he's been in those lineups, like their main source of offensive punch, which is clear that they're just not up to snuff clearly with the best teams in the league. So I they're in a situation where I think it's not just like their core guys they need to make a decision on. They also need to figure out which which of these young guys are worth keeping in their depth, and do they look for other places to find more punch off the bench?
Yeah. The Mamu stuff is you can see when he gets in the starting lineup, he scores a bunch.
Yeah,
He's clearly a guy who can feast and does very well if he's like the fourth option on the floor.
yeah,
And there's just like he has room to drive, there's opportunities. But the Raptors sometimes are put in a position where they have to feature him as if he is like the second best offensive player on the floor. His actions become the crux of plays, and you have
yep.
to get something out of it. And when teams get to lean over towards that, again, he's on a minimum contract. It's not exactly fair to expect him to really help be a tandem that carries offensive lineups, but the Raptors do ask him to do so. And that's why you get these big swings from impact, like massive one game impact, lower another game. Is it just really is dependent on the context you put him in, because if he is the fourth guy and he's driving a gap, he's like devastating. If your defense is playing well elsewhere and you get an opportunity to run out and transition, he does great filling the lane. If you run pick and pop and there's other guys, absorbing spacing and taking up coverages, then like he's doing a great job. But if you're running he and another guy's the first action, there are other players to help off of. The ball is just going to move from his hands to another's. The screening craft, the handoff craft is not really going to be there. And then, as we saw against the Knicks, just flowing from side to side, getting dead in the water. And Jakob can't shoot, but he can definitely facilitate offense outside
Mhm.
of himself with his screen craft and his rolling. And Mamu, I think, is a very valuable player to have, especially on a minimum contract. It's like he deserves so little criticism this year.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the Raptors do have to be mindful of him going into next season and evaluating now and in the playoffs, because it's not a team option, it's a player option. Mamu will be getting more than the minimum. The Raptors will, if they want to bring him back, have to dive into that mid-level exception, presumably, and they could have competition doing so. So there's very important questions about Sandro Mamukelashvili. How do you feel about him in a playoff series?
It's tough just because of the role. If you were asking me like similar to like how the Pacers use Obi Toppin, where he comes in, offers offensive punch, he's gonna be given tons of open shots. He's gonna ask to drive a little bit off closeouts. I'm like, I think Mama could do that on a really high level and offer impact. Well, I think they're gonna have to run into some challenges against either the Knicks or the Cavs. Is Mamu's going to be asked in a lot of those Jamal Shed Mamu lineups? It ends usually with Mamu having to make a play out of nothing, and in a playoff series, I don't know if that's enough. So I think his production may drop, but not due to his level of like ability. It's more just him being misplaced.
Asking Sandro Mamukelashvili to save you offensively, it's a tough scene. But as
He's
you
not good.
mentioned, Obi Toppin of the Indiana Pacers. I will say this segment is a presentation of TunyBet Online Sportsbook and Casino. Thousands of slot games, live casino at your fingertips, and a sportsbook made for Ontario. Get your game on TunyBet. TunyBet is licensed and regulated by the AGCO and iGaming Ontario. 19 plus Ontario only. Please play responsibly. I'm getting fast at that. The
Mhm.
Indiana Pacers against the Clippers tonight for people who are listening that aren't us. The Pacers are plus 11.5 on the spread. The Clippers are minus 11.5 on the spread. Those are the numbers. I think that indicates that the Clippers are expected to win, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's yeah, okay. Yeah, listen, plus and minus. You never know
You know,
what you're
it's fair
looking
enough.
at. Yeah. That's the Pacers looking with Obi Toppin. Sandro playing those minutes otherwise. It does this conversation. I really am gonna have to sit with myself and
Mhm.
decide like what is worth covering towards the back end of this season, because the game stories that are coming out, it's hard not to write similar things because the Raptors keep putting themselves, they've basically done the exact same thing the whole season. They've beat the
Yeah.
beatable teams and they really just have not beat the good
Yeah.
teams. And this is where like my sniff test on the Darko thing is like, okay, I get it. And I like Darko, man, okay? But like when he said, I didn't read it in the quote he gave me, but he's like, we had some good ones. They had some. It's like, no, you had one,
Yeah.
one, and then
Yeah.
it's 15 bad ones.
Yeah.
Even not being a very good team, if you were like a little bit under 500, this record against the best teams it would still be kind of inordinate. The fact that you're the fifth seed and you just don't ever win against good teams is a little bit mind-numbing, man. And it's bordering on the point of like a little like a mental block almost. They get to that point, it's 95-93, and then they say, you know, maybe we just don't have it. But like, man, Coach
No.
Carter, he said you run, you play defense, and I
Yeah.
promise we will be there. Bro, Kenyon could hoop.
Yeah,
Okay?
you could.
I saw them making shots, man.
But
Junior Battle was catching lobs.
they get there. They played hard today. They the Raptors like aren't a team that doesn't like
Yep.
they're not a team that like lacks effort. It's but what I'm hoping to see in the back half of the season is the same willingness that Darko had defensively to change and adjust things. I would they're losing these games anyways. I would love to see a different approach entering the fourth quarter and see what that looks like because there's no numbers to support that what they're doing is currently working well. They're losing these games, and you're in a point of a season where they're seeding. They're going to finish anywhere between 5 and 7, most likely. Their seeding won't change significantly based on what they do in the back half of the season. So I I think it's a good test for Darko to see what they can do offensively. I know he's in practice and he may be like, they just don't have it, but
I
I want to see something.
it's not we're not the most cutting edge analysis podcast. Not the most cutting edge.
Yeah.
But we do try and wrap our brain around, meaningful things. And if ever there were a Raptors podcast that was going to be like, they should be trying X and Y and diving a little deeper, that's us. And we've been doing that the whole season. And the
Yeah.
Raptors have actually tried a lot. but the outcomes aren't changing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big problems is, the Raptors, they ran a new play for Brandon Ingram tonight. Is a pitch into a stagger between Brandon IQ and Pirtle, and they haven't run that before. And it's a package, obviously, they're waiting to put in once Jakob was healthy after however long. And it was like, okay, this is a new way to maximize
Yeah.
Brandon. And, some of the looks they were giving were like these uniquely aligned plays with RJ on ball. But then you look and it's like the ball still went to Scotty in the corner. It was a wide open shot.
Yeah.
You have schemed it correctly, brother. You have cooked it up, and it's up to the team to like eat it. And they are just like an insolent 4-year-old who won't eat vegetables. They're just throwing it up, gagging at the table.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a sibling who did that? A really picky eater? Oh,
Yes, my brother.
I remember laughing at the table, man.
Oh, it's just tough. It feel like I hear the saxophone coming at the end of the season. Oh my god.
Well, this puts it in a unique place because the Raptors, most teams, I'm just complaining this podcast, but most teams they sell you a dream.
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors, even the quotes, they haven't sold a single dream. They're just like, that was great. And you're like, oh, well, do you have more aspirations than beating the Kings and the Wizards? They're like, no, we're just happy to be playing the good teams. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't bother me if they were like 6-10. But they're like 1-15, brother. I don't know. I as somebody who has to cover this team, I feel wanting for like compelling stuff. There's narratively there's very little. Schematically there's very little. They are not a treadmill team into the future, but they are a treadmill team mid-season. It is just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It feels like Groundhog Day.
It does. It kind of feels like I was never like an Atlanta fan, but like those Joe Johnson, Josh Smith teams where like like this is a good regular season team. They're gonna make the first round, and then LeBron's gonna kick the shit out of them in 4 to 5 games. And like they haven't given outside of the Thunder game, they haven't given any inkling of hope that they're going to be able to punch up. And I think the tough part, especially probably for us, is that they've already answered the things that we were questioning in the summer. And it would be interesting if one of the young guys broke out this season. Like Jacoby has played well, Jamal has like played well, but like relative to expectation, it would be nice to see someone break out and give you some inkling of hope that this will aid in the playoffs. But see,
I mean, and like they did beat the Thunder with Shea playing.
mm-hmm.
That was meaningful, man. But obviously J-Dub wasn't there. Was it Hartenstein wasn't back yet? Yeah, Hartenstein wasn't back yet. But like you beat the Shea Thunder, that was great. Of all the teams to beat, think about all the other guys. Like you and I don't know. It feels months ago at this time. It was like November, saying like I'd like to see the Knicks and see what happens. Egg on our face. Then we work ourselves up. We say, "Oh, I'd like to see what happens with the Pistons." The Pistons, they no problem. They're just like, it's very commendable actually that, you know what, very few teams run into their limitations. Most teams don't reach them. They don't play hard enough to reach them.
That's fair.
But the Raptors played hard enough to reach their limitations, and they keep doing it. And if anything, they're performing well enough to give a playoff series. They're performing well enough to hopefully trick somebody when it comes time for trade season. And they're performing well enough to build a foundation of culture of grit and hustle and Republican voting. They're doing the damn thing, man. They're trying their best, and I just don't know how much scheming can get them out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it.
I think you and I will. They have another game against. Here's the thing: we're not going to do the Wednesday recording. We'll probably do Thursday recording after the Wolves game. If they lose to the Wolves in the exact same form and fashion, I have to start deep diving on something so that I think we could talk about something else. But if they lose the same damn game to the Wolves, I don't know what it would be.
That's tough. They're scheduled towards the end of the season is pretty difficult. They play out some decent teams. So
47 wins. How do you feel?
I still feel good. They're gonna play some tanking teams that are gonna give them wins, and ideally in between some of these they have to win one of these games against good teams. There's just no way they lose all of them for the rest of the year.
Their expected wins per 82 coming into this game was 47.7. So, and that's our overlord cleaning the glass. Although cleaning the glass, sweet cleaning the glass. Oh, halcyon days when you used to tell us that we were on pace for 57 wins. Oh, what a time it was.
Man.
When they had the number 2 half-court offense in the NBA. Wow. I wonder what it is right now. Half-court offense, keep in mind, this doesn't have garbage time. They are ranked 13th.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. If you told me 22nd, I'd be like, makes sense. So,
holy smokes, man. Oh, this is a humbling stat. Because Joe and I talked about, the low-hanging fruit, that the Raptors might be able to get on the podcast we did on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And we talked about how terrible they are at transition offense, despite being running out in it all the time. Yeah. And they're first in frequency still, but they're 13th in half-court offense and 14th in offense overall. Come on, man. These are the easiest shots available. And still, they put on a little Ron Weasley Hermione. They need to sort out her priorities, man. Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Do you got anything to say? Do you want to end the pod?
I don't want to keep harping on their roster issues, but it's clear what needs to happen. I think whatever in the summer it will probably define how long Bobby and the rest of the staff is here. But overall, season is still a success, and I'm happy how things are going.
We had a friend who, and I often thought it was the funniest thing ever, and truly, like, not dumb, but funny. when they said that they like seeing like fake trade reports because it's something to talk about. But you know what? Grady, it seems so fake.
Yeah.
For a Grizzlies fan, GG Jackson, it gets you through. The
does.
Raptors have no subsequent tertiary storylines moving the needle right now. They are simply just moving along.
Yeah, because
we need one.
Because even with CMB, like, he's been pretty tremendous as a rookie, but there hasn't been the flashes of brilliance of like offense where you can say like, here's even like with OG being a really good defender, there was, hey, it looks like he's a better mover than we think. He's going to be able to drive the ball. I think he's actually going to be better than DeMar DeRozan, and he's going to leap into this star level player because he's super strong. He can get downhill. But CMB,
and 50 plus wins too.
Yeah, that's true. It's much easier to cover 50 wins, I would assume. But
we don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
We have no idea. We have no clue.
but CMB, I still believe in all the things that we spoke about, like him being able to get downhill, utilizing his handle, being a strength separator. He just has not shown that in the NBA. And some of that seems like some sort of apprehension against length. But
it seems like his thumb is about to fall off his hand,
yes,
man.
That is a fact.
He is going through it. Like, every time someone touches it, you see him like, like, damn.
Yeah, so It's a challenge. This is the dog days of the NBA, I guess.
We've been in the dog days for a while. But you know what? The dog days, shout out to Florence the Machine. There is an over. There is an
What a
end to
song.
the dog days. That's an all-time song, man.
It
She
is.
can she can really sing that, Florence. Oh. All right. We're talking about Florence and the Machine. That's probably as good a place to end it as any.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go ahead.
All right. Fair enough. 47 wins, still loading. Please don't let our pessimism. It's just tough to get your teeth kicked in multiple times over and over again. We'll be back. Minnesota, why not us? We could win that game. So keep the faith strong, and we'll see you guys next time.